Today I'll be talking about The Desperate Man by Leon Bloy. This is a translation by Richard Robinson from French to English, written in 1887. The book is about Cain Marchenoir, a poor starving author, and the struggles he faces. The book is a roman à clef, essentially a stylized autobiography of Leon Bloy. Marchenoir has been blacklisted from the literary world in Paris and finds it hard to obtain a steady job. He's extremely poor and suffers intense spiritual agony throughout the novel. The reason he's blacklisted is because he's a social outcast in his own country, France. He's hard to get along with and has a vituperative tongue. Highly opinionated, he has problems with almost everyone and everything. He dislikes modern France. He hates the publishers and writers of his day. He hates liberalism, the government, capitalism, usury, the Jews, and the bourgeoisie of his day. Although he sounds very bitter, he often has profound and rational reasons why he hates these things. He only finds respite in his Catholic faith, his writing, and his two friends, Veronique and Leverrier. For all intents and purposes, this is a Catholic novel. Marchenoir struggles with his faith and coming to terms with the modernization of France, its secularization and descent into immorality. Another major struggle he has is with his lust. He was an avid frequenter of prostitutes, although he has fought hard to remain chaste. In fact, one of the prostitutes that he knew very well was Veronique, who would end up becoming his dear friend. Due to her acquaintance with Marchenoir, she would convert to Catholicism and become a quasi-saint, living together with him in a chaste relationship. Marchenoir's depression is seen throughout the novel, as he describes his literary exile and his penurious life. He has to beg for money from his friends and even enemies. One of his few saving graces comes from Veronique, who becomes almost like the Virgin Mary to him. Also, he has undertaken a laborious writing of an eschatological treatise, a book about the end times infused with his own unique numerology. This will serve as his magnum opus, but he's despondent by his fears that it will go unnoticed by the world, since no publisher wants anything to do with him, and he can't self-publish for lack of money. It was my first time reading Leon Bloy, and I have to admit, I found the reading to be incredibly tedious and difficult to read. You will need a dictionary for sure. The maximalist decadent style is just too much. I can see the appeal of his writing for a niche community, but I couldn't get into it myself. I've read that Bloch can't be translated into English, but I'm not persuaded by translation purists. Law is hard to read because it's almost as if he referred to a thesaurus or medical dictionary for every word, and decided to use the most obscure and arcane words in existence. Reading Blah is like experiencing heavy turbulence for an entire flight to a schizophrenic. Reading Blah is like experiencing heavy turbulence for your whole flight, or listening to Reading Blah is like experiencing heavy turbulence for your whole flight, or listening to that schizo homeless at the bus stop. It's like, he might have some good points, but the meat of the story is covered by too much sinew and gristle. Simply put, it was a chore, and I couldn't wait to finish reading it. An interesting thing to note is that I never found the writing to be pretentious. As convoluted and confusing as his writing was, I got the idea that Marchenoir, or Blah, was being genuine, and that his madness and eccentricity was simply being transmuted into his writing. Another thing I disliked about the book was that it felt like a long inside joke within the Parisian literary community. So many references to local figures made my head spin. I constantly had to have Google and Wikipedia open, like on every page, to find out who this person was. So although it was cool, I did learn a lot about the literary community at the time and the philosophical and political atmosphere of the time. It was just too much. And when I'm reading, I don't want it to be like a full-blown history lesson. And so many sections of the book are just devoted to these scathing diatribes against his enemies. Although the good thing is that there is a lot of humor in these passages. It just can get a little tiring. The highlights of the book are when he drops the exaggerated wordiness and writes regular prose. These sections are reminiscent of Dostoevsky and read like a great drama. Sometimes they offer spiritually reflective ideas. For example, one of my favorite scenes is when Marchenoir visits the Grand Chartreux, the Carthusian monastery. The prayers sung at night by the Carthusians and the serenity of the monastery are beautifully portrayed and written. Marchenoir's invective towards superficial Catholics is also funny and thoughtful. An unforgettable scene is when Veronique visits the Jewish doctor for her operation. This section was super surreal and crazy. I don't think I'll ever forget this scene. Blaw's definitely a humorous writer, and you see it throughout the book. There's plenty of lines that were really clever and made me laugh. And the catalog of the phony writers and publishers at the dinner party was super cool. Overall, though, I don't think I'd reread this book anytime soon, but I would definitely try to read his other works. His style proved far too overbearing for me and made reading feel like a chore. The good parts were definitely literary gold mines, but too few and far in between. If Blah wrote more streamlined prose, I think he would have been much more popular. However, then we wouldn't have had his insane style. But yeah, that's Leon Bloy, Desperate Man. Let me know what you guys think.